Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching us today on Flock Notes. With me is Father Pat Garrett, our pastor at St. Simon and Jude. Father, we've been in this pandemic time since early March, I guess, and it ebbs and flows as they told us it would. And I guess depending on your perspective, there's no end in sight, or I'm sure there will be, but we're still dealing with it. We're still dealing with spikes. We're still dealing with closures. And obviously the effects are direct and noticeable to certain people, those who get sick, families, um, frontline healthcare workers, but there are also indirect um, results of this pandemic. And I know you have, we talked about that earlier, some of the indirect casualties, if you are, of this pandemic. People that aren't able to do what they normally do in the church.
Yeah, so we're starting to come back into the church, and it's good that we can now receive communion, or at least some of us, those that are more vulnerable, still shouldn't be taking the risk of coming to Mass. But we still have a lot of our ministries, a lot of the areas that can't minister, right? I think particularly about the extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion, right? We're still limited to just priests and deacons distributing Holy Communion, but even more so, right? Visiting the sick, taking communion to the sick, right? We're limited with that, and so I just want to encourage our ministries out there to find ways to stay together as a ministry, but then to also serve, to also continue to do your ministry. A good way for those who have been ministering to the sick is to come together and pray for the sick, right? Or, even for our extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion to come together and pray. So all of our ministries, I'd encourage you to look for ways to stay together, to come together, pray, maybe do a study, continue to promote that communion. It's going to be a long time before we're meeting in classrooms and have our small groups there and things like that. So I do encourage groups to continue to meet using Zoom. I've been offering groups to come up and meet outside, but of course the Texas heat is starting to come in. It's nice today that it's a little cooler, but it's kind of hard to meet outside. We're still working on being able to clean the rooms and things like that before we start meeting in the rooms. But we've been talking about the year of communion, and I want to continue to build that community, and we build that community through our ministries, through our small communities, through just sharing God's love in our small communities, in our ministries, in our little areas of our parish. And so I just really want to encourage groups to continue to build that community, to build that communion, meet together, minister together as much as you can, but just come together for fellowship or study, just continue going forward.
What kind of feedback have you received on Zoom meetings and alternative ways of meeting from parishioners? It seems to me like people have willingly done what they're needing to do.
It's been remarkable, right? That I think people have really different groups have gotten together on Zoom. We've gotten lots of good feedback from using Zoom. I know even in my own personal experience, right? I mean, it's been great. I've had more contact with some people because of now meeting with them on Zoom and things like that. We have a morning prayer group, and it's really great each morning to start. I mean, we jump on maybe 10 minutes before and get a little bit of time to chit chat, but most of the time we spend praying. But the bond that comes about just through that prayer, right, is just amazing. I know we have a group of women that gather together for the rosary at 5 o'clock every day, and there's just some bond that forms there. Our acolytes have been gathering to pray the rosary in the morning. So we have different groups that have been getting together. And I really encourage you to, become part of that, to just gather together, just to pray or to study. We need that kind of contact right now. And yeah, we may be able to get outside of our homes, and some of us may be returning to work, and it's not as tightly, we're not, sheltering down the way we were. Um, but I think that contact that we get through Zoom, the little more intimate contact that we're not able to really do outside, to come together, we can have it here through using Zoom and through getting together to pray together and study together.
This would be a great example, I guess, of individual parishioners taking the initiative of growing a community through their own actions.
Yeah, we've been talking about the spirituality of communion. I mentioned it last week, right? Here in this year of communion, we're here with looking this over the summer at Saint Pope John Paul II, and at the start of the millennium, he talked about how the church needed to become a school of the spirituality of communion, and that is where we're all just desiring that communion, where we're all reaching out to be in communion, not just with Jesus Christ, but with each other. And hopefully we'll post a video that I have that talks a little bit more about that spirituality of communion. Even talks about a study that the folklore movement has put together on the spirituality of communion. A good study that people could use to get together in community. So, I just encourage people to really start looking at that spirituality, that mentality of a spirituality of communion, how, especially in the midst of this pandemic, they can reach out with love and continue to build that communion, not just with Christ, but with everyone in our community.
In fact, those of you who are with us today, watching this Zoom interview after we're done, I'd encourage everyone to jump off and watch the video that Father Pat just mentioned. It is in today's Flock Note as well. Father Pat, thanks for your time. I hope you have a good weekend.
All right, good. Thank you.
Bye.